Hey, my name is Troy Moss, and I am a consultant at the UNCG Speaking Center, and I'm here to talk about fallacies. So, have you ever heard an argument that just doesn't seem to quite make sense? For instance, teaching socialism in the university is kind of like teaching arson. It's not hard to understand how this argument does not make sense, but why is that? This is a poor argument because it is a fallacy. And reasoning fallacies are the use of reasoning which fails to meet the test of sound logic. So, what is a fallacy? A fallacy is a generic term that indicates an error or weakness in an argument or thought process. Today we're going to focus on 7 fallacies and give you some tips on how to avoid them. Going back to our example of socialism being like arson, this is an example of a false analogy, or comparing two things that are not alike in a significant respect, or have crucial points of difference. No matter how you frame your argument, there are too many hoops to jump through to really make that connection. Our second fallacy is hasty generalization, or drawing a conclusion based on too few or atypical examples. For instance, I own a Volkswagen and it gave me nothing but trouble, so you should never own a Volkswagen. Our next fallacy is the false cause fallacy, or assuming that because two events are associated, one event caused the other. For example, all people who have cancer drink milk, therefore drinking milk must cause cancer. The opposite of a false cause is the single cause, or attributing only one cause to a very complex problem. For example, the crime rate in North Carolina is spiraling out of control, and having violent television be the sole reason for this trend. Our next fallacy is the slippery slope fallacy, or assuming that one event is the first step in a series that will eventually lead to an inevitable outcome. For example, if we start teaching evolution in school, everybody will eventually give up on organized religion. Our sixth fallacy is the fallacy of composition, or assuming that what is true for the separate parts is necessarily true for the collective whole. For example, because Albert Einstein was a genius, that means all Germans are geniuses. And our last fallacy is the opposite of the fallacy of composition. It is the fallacy of division, or assuming what is true for the collective whole is also true for the separate parts. An example would be, because the Democratic Party is the liberal party in the United States, each Democratic congressman is a fascist liberal. Now that you know the types of fallacies and have an example of each one, you will be able to avoid these mistakes in logic when creating your own arguments in the future.